everyone, RogueGold here. Welcome back to The Division 2. And today, we've got a new update from Ubisoft to cover, one that has both surprising relevance and implications on The Division, as well as its lead development studio, Massive Entertainment. Hopefully you can appreciate my little play on words there in the title about this massive news. But look, I know that we've all been conditioned to tense up whenever we hear that there is new Ubisoft information. Things have been pretty tumultuous over there for quite a while, but much like a few of the recent updates that we've covered with them, this one is not all bad, and I'm very curious to see where things go from here. Man, at this point I really need like a Ubisoft news playlist so that you all can keep up with the saga, but if you have not seen it, I highly recommend checking out this Ubisoft related video that I made back in January before you watch this one. In there we covered the pretty huge news that came out about Ubisoft's transition to an entirely new operating model as a company, and how that was set to impact the division and its teams. So today's video builds upon and continues that news, and it's structured in such a way that I'm assuming you know that background information heading in. So that video will be the top link down in the description. Again, I highly recommend that you watch it. But with all that down, we'll get straight to it. If you enjoy this one, you want to stay up to date on behind the scenes things like these with the division, then be sure to subscribe. A big shout out and thank you to our channel members as always. Your support allows me to branch out, cover more niche topics like these, which I appreciate very much. Thank you. But let's get right to it. Okay, so this latest update came out yesterday. I think it flew under a few people's radars because it was not touted as this big press release or an investor report. It was just a simple article that Ubisoft released titled, "Ubisoft announces new leadership for creative houses and creative network." Now, as per usual, the full article will be linked down in the description so that you can go and read the entire thing for yourself if you wish. So, again, I'm assuming that you went and watched that prior video, that you know going in what the creative house and network structure is. This is probably the best and most concise image out there that lays it all out. This came alongside today's article that we're looking at. I apologize for the low resolution of the image. I searched everywhere for something better, but this is the best that we've got. But as you can see, it divides up the 5 creative houses that categorize the various Ubisoft IPs. These houses are now intended to give the studios and games under them greater autonomy, not be beholden to the micromanagement of corporate, and that is said to be one of the bigger struggles for Ubisoft teams across the past decade. And then on the far right, you have the creative network, which lists out every studio that is not associated with a main house or IP, and they provide the support resources to whoever may need it in the house structure. And if you look closely on that list, that includes studios like Romania, who provides the bulk of current day Division 2 development resources, Red Storm, who back in the day was the Division 1 and 2's main support studio, as well as Reflections, who we learned during the 10th anniversary stream is recently back on the Division 2 team to help make the new classified assignments that we have coming during Year 8. So them, among numerous other studios worldwide, provide support to the entire catalog of Ubisoft IPs. That all is the general idea and setup of this new operating model, right? What was unknown at the time of Ubisoft revealing this new model is who would lead it. As we said, corporate is stepping back, and it was said that appointments would be made on who would lead each creative house to spearhead this new initiative. Well, today we have some of that news, and again, this impacts the division and Massive in particular in very interesting ways. So, the article begins by saying Ubisoft has announced new leadership appointments as it continues the rollout of its creative houses operating model. Julian Bears will join Ubisoft as General Manager of Creative Houses 3, focused on high-intensity live experiences, and 5, dedicated to casual and mobile play, while Thomas Andrin has been appointed General Manager of the Creative Network. So, that first name, Julian Bears, not to be confused with Julian Garrity, who we have spoken about many times here on the channel, he is not overly relevant to our interests and concerns as Division players, as Creative Houses 3 and 5, which he will now be leading, do not involve the Division. I did want to briefly point out, though, that back when the new Creative House model was unveiled, it was said that Ubisoft was going to be considering both internal appointments and external hires to fill these house leadership positions. Julian here looks to be our first first example of one of those external hires. They go on to detail his experience, noting that he has been in the industry for over 25 years and actually started his career at Ubisoft as a producer on Ghost Recon and Splinter Cell. I bring all of that up to say there were concerns about how qualified or well aligned these external hires may be with their new roles, and while I don't know Julian's history intimately, at least at a glance, this seems like a decent choice, so hopefully that represents Ubisoft's intent to find good fits for each house. But what we really need to focus on here is the second name that was mentioned, and that's Thomas Andren. We've probably only mentioned him in past videos a very few number of times. I don't expect many of you to know who this is, but Thomas Andren is the managing director at Massive Entertainment, developer of the Division games, and that has some wild implications about what is going to happen as a result of this promotion he's receiving. So, a quick walk back through time. Massive Entertainment was founded back in 1997 by Martin Wolfiz, who was then effectively the company's first managing director. Massive later gets acquired by Vivendi through a series of events, then later lands under ownership of Ubisoft in 2008. But despite being owned by a publisher, whoever that may have been at the time, Massive is still a standalone functioning studio, right? So there's Ubisoft and its CEO, but Massive also has its own studio leader who manages its projects, champions its studio's needs to the publisher, etc., etc. It is a very important role, even if it's one that to us players remains almost entirely in the background. So, Martin Wolfiz is in that role for around 10 years, and then in the late 2000s hands the reins off to David Pulfelt, a name that a few more of you may recognize. Under David's time as managing director, Massive created the idea for the Division IP. They from scratch crafted the Snowdrop engine to support it. They eventually released the Division 1, they developed and released the Division 2, and in that time signed the deals to develop games for Avatar and Star Wars. David was there for all of those major events, and he actually wrote a book called The Dream Architects detailing much of that journey. I finally got a chance to read it a few months back. I highly recommend this to anyone who finds these behind the scenes things interesting and wants more insights into the journey that led to the Division's creation. But I digress. It was then back in 2021 that David stepped down as managing director to pursue other ventures, and in his place, Thomas Andren was brought in, and he has been in that role ever since. So, in its nearly 30 years of existence, Massive has only ever had 3 managing directors, and it's pretty significant news to know that a new one is going to be coming in. Shifting back to the original article that we are looking at, it continues on to say, Thomas Andren will take on the role of general manager of the creative network beginning April 1st. In this role, he will oversee a group of expert studios that provide development support and specialized capabilities to creative houses across Ubisoft. At Ubisoft, Andren and the teams at Massive Entertainment contributed to the development of Star Wars Outlaws and its DLCs, Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, and the From the Ashes DLC, while also helping secure the long-term roadmap for the Division franchise. He has also strengthened cross-studio collaboration across projects and technology teams, overseeing teams including Ubisoft Bucharest, Ubisoft Craiova, and Ubisoft Red Links. While Andren begins his new role in April, he will serve as interim managing director for Massive Entertainment until a replacement is appointed. So, I'm sure there may be some questions right now, some doubts. You know, this is someone who was directly involved with the development and continuation of the Division franchise. You know how we've been talking about how it's good times for Division fans, right? The entire studio is back working on the IP with Survivors and Division 3. Thomas, no doubt, had a direct and major impact on all of that happening. And now, in just 2 weeks' time, he's stepping away to lead the creative network, right? That is a significant departure. But I do believe that there are some benefits to come from this too. You'll recall that the creative network is the new name and umbrella for Ubisoft's worldwide support studios, and in his new role, Thomas will be in charge of managing and coordinating with the different creative houses to best distribute those resources. And so look, while I'm not going to sit here and suggest that he is going to bring favoritism to the table and help Massive in the Division more than others, there's no question that with his familiarity to our studio and IP and the connections he's built in collaboration with Bucharest, for example, that's going to do nothing but help us out in the long run. In case you didn't know, cross-studio collaboration has been essential to the development of the Division 1 and 2. Massive has always led the charge, but vast amounts of devs and resources have come in from countless studios across the world to deliver the content that we've played and in the timelines that they were able to deliver it in. Studios like Red Storm, Reflection, Reflections, Bucharest, Annecy, Red Links, Shanghai, Toronto. There's likely even more that have helped out in smaller capacities, but this creative network, as they're now calling it, has been a necessity to the Division's existence, and no doubt that will continue being the case as development continues to ramp up on projects like The Division 3. So while it is going to be a major shift to have Andrin move away from his position at Massive, him now leading the creative network is simultaneously a great thing, as those connections and that expertise that he's built with the Division brand will persist. But that all being said, this now leaves us in a very interesting position moving forward, as we now not just have one, but two major leadership appointments in relation to the Division that are going to be made in the not too far future. And depending on who those people end up being, that could have a big impact on things moving forward. I'm gonna work some Photoshop magic right now to illustrate all of this, so please bear with me. But before yesterday, we knew about the creative house structure, but so far there had been no leadership appointments that had been made. Keep in mind that as Division fans, all we really care about are Creative House 2, as that is the group that Massive and the Division are now a part of, as well as the Creative House, as that is the backbone of the Ubisoft operation that helps get our games and content made. So, thanks to yesterday's news, we now know that Julian Bears will lead Creative House 3 and 5, but again, that is of not much relevance to us. We also do know from previous announcements that Creative House 1 has a co-leadership structure, as that is the spin-off subsidiary backed by Tencent. What we now know, though, is that Massive Entertainment's managing director, Thomas Andrin, is moving on to the creative network, and he will be taking his expertise and connections from Massive, the Division, having helped forge partnerships with the likes of Ubisoft Bucharest. All of that goes to this new role. That then leaves the leadership status of Creative House 4 still unknown, but more importantly, it means that not only is the leader of Creative House 2, where the Division falls, still a big question, but we are also now awaiting news on who the new managing director of Massive Entertainment itself is going to be in the wake of Thomas Andrin's departure. So, confused yet? I really do hope that those graphics helped portray things a little bit better. I figured that was going to be necessary the deeper we got into this. But you're now all caught up to speed. Hopefully you can begin to appreciate how wild it is that we have found ourselves on the precipice of yet another upcoming major transformation. Not just in terms of this new creative house structure and who might lead it, but also with Massive set to get its 4th ever managing director in its 30-year history. On that front specifically, I'm sure some may have their worries about further shakeup. The good news is that all of the Division's plans that we know of and are excited for right now, right, the Division 2 roadmap, Survivors, Division 3, all of that is set in stone and rolling. No one is going to come in and shut that all down, but in a year, 3 years, 5 years, as things progress, that is where this new director could really start steering the ship and deciding the future fate of the studio. From reading his book and talking to people over the years, it sounds like David Pulfeldt, the previous managing director before Thomas, was a driving force in seeing the studio pitch and secure licensing agreements to make Star Wars and Avatar games from Disney, a direction that I know many of you watching disagree with as Division fans. So who's to say what the long-term plans might be for whoever steps in, where they might take things next? I think it could be very interesting to see if Massive gets the chance to appoint an internal hire, someone who has history with the company like David did before he stepped up, or maybe they'll go the external route again, like they did with Thomas when he joined Ubisoft altogether to take on the managing director role. Who knows, but again, to underscore, we still have 2 big appointments and role announcements still to come, that being who will lead Creative House 2 under the new Ubisoft operating model, but also who will become Massive's new managing director to steer the studio's future. We shouldn't have to wait too long to get the answer for either one, so be sure to stay tuned, and I will keep you posted. There, you have it everybody, that is the news. I hope you were able to follow along with all of the things that we talked about today. I did my best to present the info as clearly as possible and highlight the importance to the Division specifically, as I know that's the only reason why all of you are here. I'm optimistic about Thomas's new role as head of the creative network. I think that gives us a leg up in future collaborations with other studios, and I am very curious who we will see take on these 2 big appointments that we are waiting to hear about. At this point, though, I would love to get your guys' thoughts on any and all of this news. What do you think about Ubisoft's choices so far for filling the leadership roles in the Creative House? Do you think they're going to make a good call for Creative House 2? And what do you think about Thomas's departure as managing director for Massive to move on to lead the creative network? Is it good? Bad? Let me know what you think. That is just about going to do it for me today, though. Thank you all very much for coming by and watching. I will catch you back very soon, but until then, RogueGold. Ow. Oh! We just got a Ravenous! Haha! I might not be friendly. Let's
is
go.
coming to the Division 2.
Let's go!
And